In this video, we'll discuss Reader's Theater. You might be wondering, what is Reader's Theater? Well, Reader's Theater refers to a creative medium for performing literary texts using a script. In addition to that definition, let's think a little bit more in depth about what is Reader's Theater and think of the features of Reader's Theater. First, Reader's Theater stages a literary text and uses that text and creates it or transforms it into a script. In Reader's Theater, the performers emphasize dramatic reading, so they play with things like inflection, speed, pause, and volume. Reader's Theater also employs minimal costumes, props, and scenery. And within Reader's Theater, performers often use folders or binders or music stands in order to hold their script while they perform. Performers also often read more than one role. This might mean that the same character plays the narrator and the mother and the child, for example. Now that we've spoken a little bit about the definition and features of Reader's Theater, let's think a little bit about how we might transform a text into something that would become a dramatic reading or become a Reader's Theater presentation. So we're going to be working with an example text here. This is The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter, which can be found open access through Project Gutenberg. And it sounds like this. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. "Now, my dears," said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, "you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put into a pie by Mrs. McGregor." So using that text, we want to transform it into a Reader's Theater example script. And with the script, what you want to do is you want to break up your text for one performer or multiple performers. In this case, there is just one performer, and this is an example text. So you'll see that there are the performer or the kind of speaker of the text is designated, as well as stage directions, which are those kind of white words within the parentheses. So this kind of example would have the performer 1 narrating to the whole audience, the first part, and then would have them pause at different parts, narrate to the audience, and then also take on the role of the mother. So it might sound something like this. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath a very big fir tree. "Now, my dears," said the old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, "you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mrs. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put into a pie by Mrs. McGregor." This is an excerpt from The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter, found on Project Gutenberg. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. "Now, my dears," said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, "you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put into a pie by Mrs. McGregor." Now you have a better idea of what Reader's Theater looks like and sounds like. Let's talk a little bit about the supplies you'll need. First, you need something to hold your script. That could be a binder or a mini binder. You might also decide to print off your script and put it on construction paper, so you'll need glue to cut and paste your script onto construction paper. You might also decide, if you're using a binder, to have transparent binder sleeves to make your script easier to turn the pages. In either case, because you're going to be using a script, you'll need some printer paper. You'll need to print off your script. And if you don't use transparent binder sleeves, you'll also need a 3-hole punch, and I recommend having a highlighter so that you can highlight your lines. In the example from before, I used a mini binder, and this is what it looks like. This is the binder open with transparent sleeves and the script inside of it. This is an up-close version of the script that was used in the earlier video. You'll see that the lines for the performer are highlighted, and in addition to the lines, there are also stage directions, as well as the title of the script. What questions do you have, or do you have a comment about this? To contact me, email me or message me through Canvas. I look forward to your projects.